Yesterday, we pointed out in the last bracha of the Amida, Sim Shalom, we asked God to place peace, goodness, blessing, pain is charm, that there should be a certain attraction to us, v'chesed, that's indiscriminate kindness, v'rachmin, mercy, oleinu, upon us. And we pointed out that the Amida, every bracha, is always written in the plural. We never speak ourselves as individuals, we're part of the whole. Oleinu. But although we say Oleinu, we say Al Kol Yisrael Amecha. In addition to us, all of Israel, your people. So we explained this yesterday, because a person's focus is normally only relates to his proximity, his inner circle of people. So we say, no, when we supplicate you for this, it's not only us, because we have a vested interest in us, per se, people who have relevance to us, the members of our family, the members of our community, but all Jews at large. I'll call Yisrael Amecha, all Yisrael who are your people. Now, if you look, Mincha time, we don't say Sim Shalom, we say Shalom Rov. Abundant peace, Al Yisrael Amecha, on Israel, your people. See, normally, if we would be writing, or I would be writing, and I would say Shalom Rov Al Amcha Yisrael, your people, Yisrael. But yet, that's not the order. It's Al Yisrael Amecha, Israel, your people. Right, and here also, right, the order is Al Kol Yisrael Amecha, upon us and Yisrael, your people, as it says in Shalom Rov, Al Yisrael Amecha. Okay? Now, the question is, why does Yisrael precede Amecha? Normally, you say your people, Israel. No, Israel, your people. We as Jews are referred to as Bnei Yisrael. We are the people, we are the sons of Israel, right? We're not called Bnei Yaakov. Yaakov had two names. The name given at birth, he was called Yaakov. After he had battled with the angel, and he was victorious even over an angel, he was reclassified, and that reclassification indicated he achieved a level of accomplishment in his life that he was another being. To be able to lord over man and God, being the angel, that means you're in a special dimension of person. The basis for Yisrael is Kisarisa im Odom im Elokim v'Odom etuchal. You lorded over God and man, and you succeeded. That's Yisrael. Yisrael is explained, is the name which represents the eternity of the Jewish people. That's an expression of Yaakov's spiritual accomplishment. We are the Bnei Yisrael. We're the sons of the eternal patriarch. And therefore, as a result of that, the Jewish people are an eternal people. Because we have that relation with God, and our connection is to an eternal source. Therefore, as God is eternal, we are eternal. Because we have that level of connection. We're Bnei Yisrael. So when we speak about God should place peace and goodness and charm and whatever we say, and indiscriminate mercy, kindness and mercy, Al Yisrael Amecha. What do we mention first? What's our relevance to him? Our relevance is because we're Yisrael. We're not Amcha Yisrael. Your people, Israel. It's Israel, that's why you're a people. That is the basis why you're a people. Therefore, we mentioned Yisrael before Amecha. Al Yisrael Amecha. Yisrael, who is your people? That is the reason why we're your people, because we're Yisrael. Yaakov was the most special of the patriarchs because he was able to achieve what he did through his interaction with the angel, and therefore he had this name change, which was considered a confirmation of who he became. He's Yisrael. Therefore, it's Yisrael Lamecho. Whether it's the Sim Shalom, the closing bracha of the Shachris, or the closing bracha of the Mincha Ma'ariv service, it's Yisrael Lamecho. Over there, we conclude the bracha Shalom of V'tov Beinecho. It should be good in your eyes. Levorech es Amcho Yisrael. There, it's inverted. Therefore, it's good in your eyes to bless your people Israel. The opening of the bracha is Yisrael Lamecho. When we close the bracha, we say your people Israel. Why do we invert it? The answer is, once we establish why we're God's people, it's Yisrael Lamecho, so then we could already say your people Israel. Because we've already established why we are God's people. Because we're Israel, therefore we're your people. Now we conclude the bracha, and that it's good in your eyes to bless your people Israel. Because we've already stated why we are God's people. Borchenu Avinu. Bless us, our Father. There's nothing which is equivalent of the blessing of the Father. You know, the Talmud tells us that normally a human being is naturally envious of another human being, another individual. However, there are two people that a person is not envious of. Who? Beno v'talmido. One is not envious of his own child, and one who's truly considered a mentored student. Because these two individuals are seen as an extension of the person himself. He doesn't see these people as an other person. These people are a representation of who the person is himself. Just as a person doesn't envy himself, the child who's an extension, this perpetuates his existence beyond his existence. Therefore, there's no basis for envy. Because when you see a child, you see yourself. When you mentor a student and you fully mentor him, and his knowledge is based on all your teachings, he is your level of representation. He represents who you are. We find in the Torah that the Jews did not become idolaters after the passing of Joshua. Yoshua ben Nun, who was the successor of Moshe Rabbeinu. And Moshe Rabbeinu, before he passes away, on the last day of his life, he says to the Jewish people that after I die, you people are going to serve idolatry. So Rashi cites the Midrash, which asks, what do you mean after he dies, the Jews will serve idolatry? They did not serve idolatry until after Joshua passed away, after Yeshua passed away, not after Moshe passed away, which was years later. So the Midrash answers that because Moshe had that special love for Yeshua, because he was a student, as long as he knew Yeshua is alive, it's like he was alive. Because Yeshua represented everything that Moshe stood for. And because the degree of love that he had for him, he saw himself in existence as long as his student Yeshua's existence. So therefore he said, after I pass away, you people are going to veer towards idolatry. That's what it is. So the blessing of a father to a child is one of a kind of a blessing. Of course, just as a person, his first and foremost interest is in himself. A child, which is an extension, a natural extension of himself, that special level of love, and therefore the blessing, which is an expression of that feeling towards that recipient of the blessing, it's a more special blessing if it comes from a father than from a third party. Even a king blesses his subject. The subject is still the subject. He doesn't see the subject as an extension of, I'm royalty, you're the subject. The father sees the son as an extension of himself. Therefore, the blessing he gives is one of a kind of blessing. It's the fullest, the most intense level of blessing. Therefore, when we ask Hashem to bless us, it's in the context of Borchenu Avinu. Bless us, our Father. There's no mention of Malkenu. We don't say Borchenu Avinu Malkenu. We only want the blessing of our Father. Kulanu, all of us. I mean, all Jews. You should bless all of us. Ke'echod. What is as one? You should bless us all as one. Say, Avinu Kulanu. What is as one? We had pointed out, we're holding right for Shavuos, that the Torah tells us that when the Jews camped at the foot of the mountain, in Hebrew, camped could be stated in singular or in the plural. In the plural, it would be camping means vayachnu, that's plural. Vayichan is singular. And the Medrash makes a point of this. If there were millions of Jews who camped at the foot of the mountain, why does camping expressed in the singular, not in the plural? To tell us that the Jews at the foot of Sinai, they were kish echad b'leiv echad. They were like one person committed to one ideal, to God. Why is that important for us to know? That the level of unity, it was one of a kind of unity. They were unified. They were like one entity. So we explained many times that every relationship is based upon compatibility. Commonality allows for compatibility. The greater the commonality, the greater compatibility. If Hashem is echod, Hashem is one. So if we assume that profile of oneness, not parts, we're one entity, therefore we establish a commonality that we should be the greatest beneficiaries of that level of relationship. That's why the Torah, when it tells us how they came to the foot of the mountain, it's in the singular. And that's why we were able to become God's holy people, God's princely and kingly nation, for that reason. It was a level that we bet, and that what we say, Ke'echod b'or panecha. Our Father bless us as one entity. Because if we assume that profile of unity, we maximize on the relationship to be able to better be the beneficiary of the relationship with you, who you are the source of all goodness. And but what is that goodness? B'or panecha. Bless us with the light, the illumination of your face. Illumination. Light always connotes clarity, understanding. And light reveals where light emanates from. The light is a certain kind of light. I'll give you an example. The light that comes from the sun is called ultraviolet light. That's what it is. So wherever the source emanates from, that is the kind of light that you're exposed to. If we say, Barchenu kumanu ke'echod b'or panecha, which light are we speaking about? The light of God's countenance. That light is a light, there's no light which is comparable to that. We find that on the first day of creation, what did God say? Let there be light. This is before the luminaries were created, before the sun and moon was created. What light was this? This light, God created a light. It was the purest, holiest light. And then on the fourth day of creation, there were luminaries created, which light emanated from the luminaries. Now, what happened to this light? So Rashi cites the Midrash on location, that this light being so holy and so special, God had put it away for the tzaddikim, the devout, at the end of time, that they will bask in this light. It's a light that gives a level of illumination, understanding, and purification. There's no light which is compared to this light. With this we're talking this or panecha. This is a light that emanates directly from God. It's not through an intermediary. The sun generates light. God wills the sun should generate light. This is or panecha. This is the light of God's countenance. Therefore, everything is on an absolute level. But you have to meet the criteria of ke'echad. We have to be seen as one. We're unified. And it's the blessing of a father. Ba'ar panecho. Ki ba'ar panecho. Why do we want the light of your face? Ki ba'ar panecho nosat Adonai Hashem Elokeinu. Because with the illumination of your face, you gave us in the past, Hashem Elokeinu, God, our Almighty, Torah Chaim Avos Chesed. Because at Sinai, when we had the Sinai experience, and we became your people, holy people, and there was that metamorphosis in us, that we became Odom, we were reclassified as the intent of creation. With that illumination of your face, you gave us the living Torah and the love for Chesed. Why does they go hand in hand? Avas Chesed. The Chofetz Chaim authored a work called Avas Chesed, loving kindness. But it's not really an accurate, it's loving kindness. A person loves kindness. A person loves to do chesed. Now, why did God create this existence, this world? And David in Tehillim addresses this question. So David says, Olam chesed yiboneh. The basis and the impetus for creation was God's indiscriminate kindness. God had no need, but purely to do chesed, as the Ramchal explains, something which is good in the absolute sense wants to do good. There's no necessities. God is absolute, but good does good. So the basis for creation was chesed. Olam chesed yimoneh. So when you exposed us to your light at Sinai, the illumination of your face, what did we receive? Torah's Chaim. The Torah, which is the source of a Jew's life. That's our connection to eternity. That's how we link to God. We say, Keim chayenu v'orchemenu. That's our life, that's the length of our days. Eitz chaim hi lamachzikim bo. It's the tree of life, those who embrace it, take hold of it. But we saw that light gave us an understanding of the value of that Torah and the love for kindness. Because when we were exposed to that light, we had a level of illumination, understanding that's the ultimate level to achieve. You do chesed not with any ulterior motive. One does loving kindness purely for the sake to do the right thing. You do good because it's the right thing to do. I'll give you an example. What's the litmus test to test the quality of a person? And I experience this very often. There's somebody who's truly in need or a cause that has to be supported or a person who's in need. You go over to one person and both people are able to help in a significant way. You go to one person and say, this person has issues. He needs financial assistance. Do you want to help him? I think it's important for you to help him. You make a suggestion. So what does the person say to me? By the way, who is he? How well do you know him? And if you know him, what do you have to get involved? I mean, life is not complicated enough. Even if his need is real. But that should not be your focus. Do you have what to gain? You have to what to gain, that's one thing. What do you have to gain? You're just complicating your life. That's one person's response. Another person says, what you're saying is the person truly needs the help and it's a good cause. Well, if it is, I'm interested in helping. He doesn't ask me, who is he? What is there to gain? What are you complicating your life? What's the difference between these two individuals? One person is truly a good person. A good person wants to do good. The other person, unless he has what to gain, he's not there. He doesn't want to be there. He's self-absorbed. He's self-centered. He's inwardly directed. The other person, no. He wants to shine out. If he's able to help another person who's in need of help, he wants to be there. But that's called Avas Chesed. You're doing kindness, although you have nothing to gain by it. You do kindness because you love kindness. It's something that you value. You want to do it because that reflects the quality of who you are. So when we were exposed to be able to appreciate kindness for the sake of kindness, without any hook, there's no hook over here, no strings attached, arm's length. I don't want the person even to be holding to me. I don't even want them to know that I'm even doing kindness with him. Where do we appreciate that level of kindness? That was given to us when we're exposed to the illumination of God's faith, countenance. We receive through that Torah's Chaim V'Avos Chesed, the living Torah, and the love for loving kindness, to be able to love kindness, Chesed for its own sake, without any ulterior motive. I'm only doing it because. There's no because. Utstoka. To do charity. Ubrocha. To appreciate what brocha is. V'rachmim. That we should be worthy of mercy. V'chaim v'shalom. Life and peace. That's what happened at Sinai. Because we were qualified to be exposed to God's light of his countenance, of his face, we merited to be valued, that we should be beneficiaries of all this, which we just delineated. And therefore, because of that, v'tov beivecha, you find it appropriate in your eyes. You know, we say in English, seeing is believing. When we speak about in God's eyes, what is God's eye? You know, a person, a human being, we have conflicts of interest. We may believe we see things, but we may not be seeing them accurately because we have conflicts of interest. We see it with a jaundiced eye. We see it through colored lenses. But we say something is good in God's eyes. There's no level of clarity and perception as God's eyes, what God sees. V'tov beinecha, and you see it good in your eyes, through your eyes, because you understand the essence and the value of a Jew, the makeup of our soul, the value of our existence, that our existence gives value to creation. And creation was only created that the Jew should exist, to study the Torah and to advance his spirituality. That's Tov Beinecha. Levorech es Amcho Yisrael, to bless your people Israel. Now it's your people Israel. We became your people because we are Yisrael. We are the descendants of Yaakov, who's Yisrael. Therefore, we have that another dimension of spirituality. Therefore, you find it appropriate and good to bless Amcho Yisrael, your people Israel. Well, how often? Continues every moment, all time, every moment. Bishlomecha, with your peace. What does it mean? You find it good to bless your people Israel all time, every moment, with your peace. Now, we had said, we speak the world as so many years old. Does that mean God created the world so many thousands of years ago? And what he created then exists because he created in the past? No. The process of creation is an ongoing process. Every moment, what God willed the first moment of creation, God continuously wills it should evolve as he wishes, as he dictates it should evolve. So every moment is a moment of creation. Every moment is a moment of ex nihilo. Because if God should cease willing the energies which brought creation into existence, the world would revert back to pre-existence. So therefore, it's mecholes. And since the Jewish people, their function and their needs are essential to the value of existence, because existence only came into being because of them, therefore we ask Hashem, it is good in your eyes to bless your people Israel, which is the ultimate objective of creation. for the sake of the chosen, Israel, the Jewish people, and the Torah, it's continuous. Just as the process of creation is an ongoing process, it's an ongoing willing of ex nihilo. As we say every Shachris, God renews through his goodness, b'chol yom, continuously, Masa Bereshis, the act of creation. Act of creation is ongoing. Therefore, we say, therefore you find it good in your eyes to bless your people Israel, all continuously, every moment with your peace. Because peace is crucial for what? For our function to be able to be fully effective. And that's the bracha. Baruch atah Hashem. Blessed are you, Hashem. And I say this over and over. If you stop, you think, Baruch atah Hashem. Hashem, you are the source of all blessing. That means you are the source of all blessing. Baruch atah Hashem. All blessing emanates from you. So if all blessing, there's nothing that does not emanate within the context of blessing from God. HaMevorech es amo Yisrael b'shalom, who blesses his people, Yisrael, with peace. Meaning God is the totality of everything. He's the source of all blessing. And he blesses his people with peace. So where is that blessing emanating from? From the source of everything. And that's what we conclude. The Shemon Esrei, he blesses his people Israel b'shalom, with peace. And that's crucial. We're secure. We have external peace. We have inner peace. You're continuously distracted because you feel insecure. And there's a basis to feel insecure because you're always under attack from the outside. Then you have no inner peace. But if God blesses us with peace and we have security, then we have the inner peace. It's very interesting. We read at the beginning of Pirkei Avos that it's advised, aseh siyog l'Torah. You should make a fence for Torah. We ourselves are always vulnerable when we have blind spots and we may not realize that we may be walking through a minefield. So therefore you have to create barriers and fences to navigate the minefields, not to get too close. So what is a fence? It's an exterior barrier to protect you from the outside. You don't want that outside influence. When you have that outside, you protect from the outside influence, then you have the inner ability to have clarity. The moment you're distracted and something outside has relevance to you, then you have the inner peace. As the source of the word shalom is shalem. You're whole. You can only maintain the inner wholeness if you have the outer security. If you have the outer security, then you have the inner security. If you don't, it's the same thing. If you have peace we're talking about it to be protected, to be secure from the world. And then we have the inner security. And he blesses his people, Israel, b'shalom, with peace. Okay?